In nature, every approach can turn into an attack in a very short moment. A lion might proactively approach and initiate an attack, but the situation immediately reverses when distance, location, or environment changes. From the open grassland to the calm water's edge, each point of contact can trigger a direct and decisive response. And it is in those moments of attack and reaction that instinct and choice determine the final outcome. In the moving formation of the herd, buffalo maintain close spacing and constantly monitor their surroundings. Those on the outer perimeter are ready to turn at the first sign of change. Their strong horns help maintain distance and protect the center. A state of alertness is maintained even when the grassland surface is calm. At the edge of the herd, a young lion shifts its attention to a small target and slows its observation pace. It lowers its body, approaches, and maintains its approach. Meanwhile, from the sidelines, a buffalo changes direction and accelerates directly. The distance is rapidly reduced, leaving no time for adjustment. Contact occurs before the young lion can stabilize its posture. It is pushed back from its position and loses its approach rhythm. The buffalo maintains its distance, preventing any gaps from opening. The young lion leaves the area when it can no longer close in. The sequence of events shifts from stable to intermittent in a very short time. Reduced attention allows for a direct response to emerge. When distance changes abruptly, the approach is no longer maintained. In nature, maintaining continuous observation determines the ability to retain an advantage. In open ground, the scimitar-horned antelope maintains a very steady reaction when sensing danger nearby. It doesn't turn its back too quickly, always keeping its head facing its opponent. Its long horns are positioned in front to control distance and prevent close approaches. This calmness makes approaching difficult from the start. From the outside, the lion begins to stalk, then suddenly accelerates to close the distance. It constantly changes direction, aiming for a safe entry point, but the scimitar-horned antelope always turns its face accordingly and keeps its horns pointed in the correct direction. Each attempt to get close is blocked before it can gain an advantage. There is no safe enough space for the lion to continue pressing. When the acceleration doesn't produce a change in direction, the lion is forced to stop and retreat. The scimitar-horned antelope maintains its posture, preventing the distance from being broken. The approach ended when the lion was unable to find a clear path forward. The scimitar-horned antelope maintained the upper hand, forcing the lion to retreat. Amidst the slow but steady movement of the herd, elephants instinctively protect their young with both position and physical strength. The mother always maintains a very close distance, lowering her head when sensing danger and ready to block the path ahead. Her large size and powerful thrust allow her to control the space in front of her without retreating. This stability makes any approach risky from the start. On the outer perimeter, lions begin to stalk and form a circle to try to separate the young from the mother. They don't choose to confront the mother directly, but move around, waiting for a gap to appear. But each time the distance narrows, the mother steps forward, lowers her head, and blocks the path straight ahead. The lions approach and then slow down, as there is no safe angle to get close. When the distance is not broken, the lions cannot maintain the pace of approaching as planned. There was no clear point of separation, nor a sufficiently opportune moment to press further. The elephant held firm, while the lion gradually abandoned its attempt to advance. The approach ended with the formation intact, and the calf not isolated. The difference lay in one side preventing the formation from being broken. One side attempted to create a separation, while the other did not retreat and did not leave any gaps. When the mother-calf bond remains unbroken, the entire encirclement tactic becomes ineffective. In nature, maintaining the right position at the right time can determine the entire outcome. Besides a newly discovered resource, the rhinoceros displayed a very direct and stable survival response. It didn't retreat, but actively maintained its position and constantly turned its head toward any nearby movement. Each advance was aimed at protecting its distance and control of the area. This proactive approach made any approach difficult to sustain. On the outside, the lion didn't leave but circled around, cautiously waiting for a small opening. It kept its distance, tried changing direction, and gradually approached, but each time the rhinoceros charged straight ahead and pushed it back immediately. The lion dodged and retreated, then approached again. The cycle of pressure, retreat, and return continued without a breakthrough. After many attempts to approach, the lion still couldn't find a safe enough opening to sustain its attack. The rhinoceros doesn't need a direct hit to maintain control through consistent reactions. The distance in front of it is always maintained, while the lion gradually accepts staying out of the danger zone. The confrontation ends when the rhinoceros holds its position, and the lion gives up on venturing further. When both sides maintain a consistent reaction rhythm, the confrontation begins to stop at a safe limit. One side steadfastly holds its position, the other remains but cannot afford to take risks. When no mistakes occur, the confrontation becomes simply a test of endurance and risk tolerance. In nature, sometimes keeping the opponent out of reach is the clearest way to win. In the open expanse of the grassland, wildebeest move in groups and maintain close coordination. When cornered, they don't just run. They can maintain their posture and face each other for a short time. Their curved horns help control distance. The rhythm of movement is maintained while waiting for the opportune moment. While the herd continues to move, two lions choose a steady approach and keep their target under control. They slow the prey's pace, but don't finish it off immediately. The brief pause changes the rhythm of the situation. The wildebeest stops, turns, and faces directly. When the distance is close enough, the horns sweep against the leg of one lion. The approach is interrupted, and both lions must separate from the target. The wildebeest maintains its posture for another beat before moving away from the danger. The distance is reopened, and the direction of movement is restored. Immediately after the initial reaction, the situation no longer maintains its original course. The delay in approach opens the door for a counter-reaction. When the prey turns around at the right moment, the approach is interrupted and cannot continue as before. In nature, controlling the pace of movement determines the ability to maintain an advantage. In the rapid and continuous movement of the pack, African wild dogs maintain very close coordination between each position. Each individual maintains an appropriate distance and adjusts to the common signal without becoming isolated. When pressure arises, the reaction occurs almost simultaneously in multiple directions. This synchronization helps the entire pack maintain a stable structure in all situations. A lioness approaches and begins to pressure the formation. The pack of wild dogs does not retreat, but slightly separates the formation to both maintain distance and surround from multiple sides. When the lioness accelerates and controls a target, the pack's reaction rhythm immediately changes. The directions of movement simultaneously reverse, forcing the lioness to constantly turn and lose focus. Under pressure from multiple sides, the lioness cannot maintain its initial control. It is forced to switch to a defensive state and gradually reduce its approach rate. The pack of wild dogs maintained their distance and prevented their formation from breaking. The confrontation ended when the lion released its target and left the pressure zone. In this section, the decisive factor lies in maintaining coordination throughout the process. A short-term advantage is insufficient when the surrounding space is controlled in reverse. When multiple pressure points appear simultaneously, a single attack becomes ineffective. In nature, collective control of space can completely alter the outcome. Beneath the calm surface of the water, the crocodile maintains its ambush hunting instinct with great patience and an extremely quick reaction at close range. It doesn't need to move much, just stay low and wait for the right moment to spring up. In this environment, the advantage doesn't come from long-distance speed, but from precision in the first moment. The silence of the water makes the danger zone difficult to recognize. At the water's edge, the lion lowers its head to drink, significantly reducing its ability to observe its surroundings. It moves closer to the danger zone without noticing any clear signs. The moment the distance is close enough, the crocodile springs straight up from underwater, creating a sudden, almost vertical impact. The stillness is instantly broken, and the lion loses its advantage from the very first second. After the initial reaction, the lion recoils and tries to maintain its balance to avoid being pulled deeper into the water. It lacked clear openings to counterattack and quickly realized the current environment was no longer suitable for confrontation. The crocodile didn't need a long chase to maintain its advantage from a very short distance. The confrontation ended when the lion withdrew from the water's edge for safety. In this section, the deciding factor wasn't reputation or strength on land. One side simply waited for the right moment, while the other lost its advantage the moment it entered a disadvantageous environment. When the space changes, the entire response changes as well. In nature, the environment often determines the outcome even before the actual confrontation begins. Not every confrontation ends with a clear-cut victory. Often the outcome is decided by small things like distance, timing, and timely reactions. A lion may have the initial advantage, but it cannot always maintain it. In nature, persistence and choosing the right moment are key to retaining the advantage. On the vast savannas, hyenas don't wait but actively initiate attacks. They closing in step by step and maintaining constant pressure. From surrounding a lone lion to seizing control of a food source, every confrontation is direct. This series of moments demonstrates how collective pressure can change the course of events in just a few short minutes. On the low grass, still echoing with hurried breaths, a cheetah stood beside its prey, recently subdued after a brief burst of speed. Cheetahs are renowned for their explosive speed, but their stamina quickly diminishes after a successful hunt. In that brief moment of recovery, danger begins to appear. A hyena advanced directly toward the food source with decisive strides. Without a long chase, it applied direct pressure before the cheetah had fully recovered. Facing the risk of a prolonged confrontation, the cheetah retreated and maintained its distance. The prey quickly fell under the hyena's control. Having achieved its objective, it did not prolong the conflict, but maintained a vigilant position. In the competitive savanna landscape, hyenas often stand over cheetahs at food points, but they must remain cautious of larger rivals. In the open grassland, a herd of wildebeest moved closely together in a steady rhythm, keeping their young in the safest position. This close bond created a natural defense, but even a momentary slowdown in the calf was enough to spread the formation apart, and that pause was quickly detected. From the edge of the herd, a hyena accelerated with a clear objective. It headed straight for the smallest individual, closing the distance step by step. The mother's reaction was almost instantaneous. She turned sharply and advanced, blocking the approach with a resolute defensive posture. The pace changed abruptly. The hyena slowed down, realizing its initial advantage was gone. The distance was re-established, the calf retreated close to its mother, and the opportunity that had opened was quickly closed. The encounter ended in a brief but clear tension. A mother's protective instinct doesn't stem from calculation, but from a powerful survival reflex. On the savannah, that instinct can turn the tide in seconds. On the edge of the grassland, a lone leopard stands beside its recently captured meal. Weighing between 90 and 160 pounds, the leopard relies on its stealth and ability to spring into action in a highly competitive environment. However, before the meal is even safely secured, the situation begins to change. Two hyenas appear from behind and advance toward the food source. They approach cautiously, maintaining a safe distance to create pressure. The leopard retreats, observing and waiting for an opportunity to react. At locations where carcasses are found, field statistics show that hyenas dominate in about 70% of contested cases. When one hyena gets closer, the leopard tries to hold its position for a few seconds. But faced with the steady coordination of its two rivals and the risk of being surrounded, it chooses to leave the area. The hyenas take complete control of the meal. This confrontation reflects a clear strategic difference. Leopards excel at ambushes and controlling confined spaces, but hyenas are superior at finding food thanks to their endurance and coordination. In direct competition, numbers and team discipline often determine which side survives. In the dry grassland, a lone adult male lion stands on the edge of its territory. Weighing approximately 550 to 575 pounds, it outnumbers the individual hyenas, each weighing only 110 to 130 pounds. But its weight advantage doesn't guarantee safety, as the gray shadows begin to silently close the circle. More than 30 hyenas advance in a curved formation, their distance shrinking with each step. They don't attack in a rush, but maintain a constant harassing rhythm, closing in and then retreating, keeping the pressure steady. This persistent movement forces the lion to constantly shift its position, depleting its energy over time. When a hyena gets too close, the reaction is instantaneous. The lion spins sharply, locking onto its target and launching a counterattack to the neck. The opposing formation falters, creating a brief but crucial gap for the male to regain its position and make a retreat. After a tense moment, the two sides separated, moving away from direct contact. This confrontation was not just a test of strength against numbers, but also a test of team discipline. Collective pressure can shake even the strongest individual, but a small misstep can instantly reverse the outcome. In the open grassland, a pack of African wild dogs stood around their recently acquired food after a long chase. Weighing between 40 and 70 pounds, they relied on their coordinated movements to gain an advantage over long distances. Before the atmosphere had even settled, silent gray figures approached from the edge of the bushes. Two hyenas appeared, moving slowly but steadily. They maintained their distance, observing and clearly defining their roles. One stood slightly ahead, creating psychological pressure, while the other moved closer to the food source. With the addition of hyenas behind, the space narrowed.
He snapped him on the nose.
The wild dogs regrouped, signaling and trying to maintain their position. However, they were better suited to pursuit than close-range confrontation. Under increasing pressure and the increasingly tight hyena formation, their resistance became less effective. Finally, the wild dogs left the area to avoid unnecessary risk. The atmosphere gradually calmed down as the gap was re-established. This encounter highlighted the difference between long-range tactics and positional control. When food became the focus, team discipline and the ability to maintain pressure determined which side would remain in the game. In the dusty, open expanse of the prairie, a honey badger moved slowly, making no attempt to evade. Honey badgers are much smaller than hyenas, but are known for their thick skin and fierce defensive reactions. The hyena approached, attempting to pressure it with a series of close steps. The honey badger did not back down, turning to face it and maintaining a ready stance, noticeably slowing the approach. After a few seconds of hesitation, the hyena slowed its pace and retreated to a dangerous distance. The encounter ended quickly, reminding us that some small targets carry high risks that predators are unwilling to take. On an open field in the middle of the savannah, a herd of buffalo stood in a tight circle, sensing unusual movement around them. The adults held the outermost positions, heads facing outwards, forming a collective defense. Within this formation, no individual was separated from the herd. More than 50 hyenas appeared and moved in various directions, trying to find a gap to split the formation. They approached and then changed direction constantly, creating pressure from multiple sides. However, whenever a direction was pushed forward, the buffalo immediately adjusted, maintaining a uniform distance and not revealing any individual target. After several minutes of maintaining pressure without creating a separation, the hyenas gradually slowed their approach and withdrew from the area. The defensive formation remained intact. The confrontation ended without any individual being isolated. Unity had completely neutralized the splitting tactic. On the dry, cracked ground of the savannah, an adult zebra stands slightly apart from the herd after a long journey. Zebras usually rely on speed and powerful kicks to defend themselves while maintaining distance. But as their mobility diminishes, that advantage is no longer intact. A pack of hyenas recognizes this sign and begins to close in layers. They don't launch a full-scale attack immediately, but take turns approaching, maintaining constant pressure. When the zebra no longer has enough space to accelerate or turn to react, the encirclement gradually closes. The attrition pressure takes effect minute by minute. Without the ability to accelerate or build momentum for defense, the prey gradually loses control of the situation. The confrontation ends when the hyenas completely control the situation. In nature, when mobility is limited, chances are almost non-existent. On the harsh savanna, every confrontation leaves a clear lesson about power and limits. Hyenas can close in, surround, and overwhelm. But success always depends on precise coordination. Numbers offer an advantage, but even a small mistake can change the entire course of events. Amidst this constant clash, alertness and discipline are the decisive factors in determining which species will survive.